Now, let's get to the heart of the issues, okay? First of all, I want you all to make sure that you can access me at any time you like. For instance, you can call me on 0344 499 1000. You can be watching this as we speak on YouTube. That way you get the advantage of seeing my face as well as hearing my voice, okay? And you know how to get hold of me. You know the ways in which you can access Talk Radio. So just get with it, folks, because you won't regret it, okay? So we know what's on the show. Now, let me tell you where I think we're going wrong. And as I say, you let me know anytime if you agree or disagree with me. That's what this platform is all about. Now, basically, the basic premise of the early part of the show today is that lockdown does not work, okay? It doesn't work. We've had a great lockdown over the mid-spring and early summer period. And then we decided to lift everything. Then the Prime Minister came out and said, right, we all go back to work now. You all go back to your jobs. You all get back on trains. Get back on public transport. We're going to lift everything and get going. No, didn't happen. What happened was a bunch of doom-mongering scientists came along and said, you know what's happened? Since we lifted lockdown, we've had a resurgence in the number of COVID cases. Nothing like the numbers that we were facing in March, April. Nothing like the 100,000 a day we were getting there. Much, much smaller now, but nevertheless, enough to frighten everybody into examining where we go next. And then, of course, the information all changed. Oh, we've decided, don't go back to work. Don't go on public transport, okay? Don't get out and about. Don't go and see your family. So it all went into reverse. What's happened since then? Utter chaos, right? So now we've got regional lockdowns. Well, at least the regional lockdowns aren't locking down areas of the country which are barely affected. I live down on the south coast. There's barely any infection there whatsoever. Even in Stockbroker Belt, Surrey, where I live, very, very low numbers indeed. Hardly anybody infected in Devon and Cornwall. So a national lockdown would be a disgrace. But even the regional lockdowns now can't work. They just can't work. Scientifically, I think it's already been proven. I'm not a scientist, but I can see what's going on. You lock down, you circuit break, whatever a circuit break is supposed to mean, and you suppress the numbers of people getting COVID on a daily basis for 14 days. And then you take the lockdown off, and it all goes back up again. Not to previous figures, but it goes back up again. There is no way of tackling COVID by locking down society or having circuit breakers to isolate communities for 2 weeks and then letting them go back to their original way of life. It simply doesn't work, okay? So what's the alternative? Some would say herd immunity, okay? Big scientific debate about herd immunity, although you have to say a group of scientists from America and Oxford have issued a paper in which the Great Barrington Declaration, in which they've said it could work. They said that, if you look at herd immunity and the way it has worked in other countries, like, for instance, Sweden, it can work. However, I think the best way to tackle this and the best way to solve the problem, it's an insoluble problem, by the way, a pandemic, but the best way to try and solve it is to return responsibility to the individual. So what I'm saying is government should no longer dictate for all of us. We should now take back responsibility on an individual basis. I could be said to be a vulnerable individual, a gentleman of a certain age, a little bit overweight, had a few problems with the old ticker in the past and all that. I, however, am prepared to go out in society and do things like make sure I keep my distance, make sure I'm always wearing a mask, make sure I'm extremely careful about how close I get to other people and how I mix with other people, to make sure I wash my hands on a constant basis, to carry a sanitizer around with me, to carry a supply of masks around with me, which I wear at all times. These are the things I've done, and so far, cross my heart, I've done okay, and I've got through it. And if I can get through it, other people can. Now, I think that personal responsibility is something which has been sorely missing, not from the individual. I think we're all prepared to do it, but from government ministers not accepting that we should individually be responsible. The nanny state is a terrible thing. The nanny state is when people come out and start telling you what they think you should be doing instead of letting you think what you should be doing, okay? And you know where it leads? It leads to places like what's happening in London now. Mr. Sadiq Khan, the mayor there, now trying to bring in even stricter conditions on the movement of people around the city in this country, which generates about 1/3 of our total wealth, okay? 1/3 of our total wealth is produced in the southeast of England, most of that in London, and yet we're closing it down again. It's just not good enough. So